How big is the homeless problem in San Luis Obispo County? We're going to find out and more on a Clarion Voice. Good morning. Welcome to Tuesday, August 8th on a Clarion Voice. This is Mark Sobowitz, and today we're going to discuss the homeless problem in San Luis Obispo County with our guest, Wendy Lewis, the CEO of the Echo Homeless Shelters. Wendy, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, good morning.
You're very welcome, and good morning to you as well. Okay, let's dive into this. Well, as a matter of fact, let me find out a little bit about your background. You've been affiliated with Echo for how long? Just since the beginning?
So I've been, no, not the beginning. So the organization's been around for over 20 years, and it was founded by amazing volunteers, and actually here in Atascadero. And as homelessness and the subject grew, Echo grew our organizational strength, and part of that was me coming on board about 6 years ago. My background, I was actually with the food bank, San Luis Obispo County Food Bank, and was the chief operations officer there, and was able to have the opportunity to come to Echo and look at what our organization can do to help even more. And so, yeah, love it. Love the work.
Well, very good. Okay, as I was starting to say before, how big is the homeless problem in San Luis Obispo County? I mean,
So I actually like to twist that a little bit. So
Okay.
a lot of folks say, the homeless problem, right? I actually view it as a humanitarian problem because
Okay.
it is people who are out on the streets living without the safety that everyone should have, right? And so we look at each individual, and yeah, the homelessness in our county is very large. Homelessness in California is very large. Homelessness throughout the nation is very large. And so what our organization does, which is El Camino Homeless Organization, the acronym ECHO, is really look at each individual, and we can't solve the entire situation, right? But we can solve each individual's journey and help people back into housing.
Okay, and you have two facilities, one in Atascadero and near Atascadero High School, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And then the facility in Paso Robles is on Black Oak. Is that
Yeah,
right?
so we were, we had our Atascadero location. We evolved, right? So it was started as a meal program. Volunteers years ago saw there was no homeless services in North County, and they came together and said, "Well, we can bring at least meals, provide that nutrition and that comfort," right? And so, as the face of homelessness changed and the need changed, our organizational grew to try to meet some of that need. So. Used to go church to church with a meal monthly, and then they evolved to say, well, maybe we can offer shelter. And we partnered with a church here in town, Second Baptist Church. They're no longer here, but we actually offered shelter upstairs in Atascadero for years. And back then it was more of, you come in, you have a meal, you sleep, and then you leave in the morning. And as our organization grew, and we could see that we needed to add more services in order to really get people back into housing. That's what we've been trying to meet. And so 3 years ago, we were able to start looking at a project in Paso Robles, and that was what people refer to as the former Motel 6
Right.
project. And
Right.
we are ready for that Motel 6 component to go away, but we're doing a lot of great things up there. It's exciting.
And what services beyond feeding the homeless and providing shelter? There are other services that you provide people. Is that correct?
Yes. So the key that we see to getting people back into housing, that's our goal, right? We want to serve people where they're at, but we really want to help not only that person get back into help into housing, but that helps the community, right? That takes one less person off the streets. And so we offer an array of services, and that's truly the component. So we're kind of different, where traditional shelters, you come for a night, you might have a meal, you have a bed, you have that safety, and that serves a purpose. But we saw as we evolved that what happens if we provides even more stability. So we have what's called a 90-day program, and somebody comes to us. There's an application process, and then once we have space, right? We can't serve everybody at the same time, but once we have space, that becomes their home for at least 90 days. So they have that stability. They have a place to leave their belongings. They have a place to work with our case managers who have a tailored case plan that meets them, right? So someone who is 18, that
Mhm.
case plan is going to look so different than someone who's 80 who had a medical crisis. And that case plan and all those supportive services are truly the magic that gets people back into permanent stable housing.
I see. Now, as we were talking before we came on air, you were talking about the fact that you go down to the riverbeds and things like that. Tell us a little bit about what you do with those individuals.
Yeah. So somebody who comes physically to our doors, we have that case manager that can really have that expertise and help them with the resource they need. So maybe it's that person who they haven't worked in a while, and employment is a key factor in to having money and saving and getting back into housing. They'll work with them to do job interviews, different types of resume building, and help them connect to employment. Well, that's a barrier to get to us. So we added an outreach team about 2.5 years ago. And those outreach folks have that same ability to bring those resources
Mhm.
and start to build connection with people throughout the community. So not just physically at our walls. So they'll meet people in the parks, in the riverbed. And what that looks like is just that connection. It's at first. So it might be on these hot days. Hey, I have ice water for you. Would you like this? And that person starts to loosen the barriers, right? And they feel disconnected for so long, but that person coming back and checking in on them starts that progress, starts that journey. So it might be 5, 10 times where that bottle of water, that food is the first resource they're open to, but then maybe on the 10th visit, they're open to coming to our locations for a shower. We have a shower program that offers showers Monday through Friday, and maybe come to that meal and then gets them ready for those next steps.
What kind of response do you get from the people as far as your outreach program is concerned? Do you find that people are at least willing to listen and to perhaps participate, or do you find that there are people that are resistant?
Yeah, you hear often that misconception of people are choosing homelessness, right? They're choosing to be on the streets. They like that lifestyle. And what we find is they just don't feel connected to the community any longer. They've been isolated, right? They don't feel human, and those conversations help them become and feel more human to get them ready. So there might be resistance in the beginning, but when we build the trust and we are there, we show up, and we're consistent, that really helps people decide to take those next steps. In forward progress is what we look for. So that next step might be just looking at getting an ID. They haven't had an ID for years, and
Mhm.
we can help them with resources to get that ID. And then maybe it's just that next step of coming in, like I mentioned, for a shower, right? That shower is not only going to make you feel better, but it brings back a little dignity, and we have clothing and we provide other resources. And so it's those steps that really are what makes our services successful.
We were talking earlier about the mental health component as far as typifying a person that is homeless. What kind of things are you doing as far as addressing those issues?
Yeah, so we are not mental health experts, but we partner with the community. We partner with the county with mental health services. We also partner with Transitions Mental Health, and they bring actually a mobile van with all those services to each location every other week. And so, right on site, we have services to offer for those that need that. We also hear often that everybody who's homeless. Has mental health or drug and alcohol problems, right? We also see that that's not the case, that many of the people we're serving, it's that tragedy, it's that one thing. I was living paycheck to paycheck, and a spouse lost a job or someone's passed away in the family. So you have folks that just truly have an emergency and become unhoused, and we become their safety net. So it really is about providing intensive services. If you come to us, we have things like parenting classes, tutoring for the kids, reading for the kids. We have financial literacy. We have, like you said, the mental health support. We have an array of services that really are tailored. And as I mentioned, that 90-day program really is the key. So traditional shelters, about 10% of those that you're serving, if you get 10% back into housing, that's considered successful. In our services, the people that stay in our program, they average about 50% that we get back into housing. So you can
Wow,
see there's
that's
really something
fantastic.
special happening in our community.
Absolutely. So beyond the programs that we are aware of, ECHO and Transitions Mental Health, what other services need to be provided for the homeless, or to at least try to put a dent in the problem?
Yeah, so it really is, it's a big issue, right? It's the number one issue probably facing our community, and so it's going to take a lot of people coming together from government entities, from businesses, from churches. It really is going to take all of us looking at it. The housing costs are, in just amazingly expensive, right? We're, I think, the number 6 most expensive place in the country to live right here in this beautiful. So it's going to take increased services, looking at different forms of housing, not just traditional housing.
Mhm.
Um, Singles, really single units versus adding so many multi-family, because a lot of the folks that we serve are singles. We do serve a lot of families with children and a lot of seniors, but it's going to look at creativity when it comes to housing to really solve more mental health support, more drug and alcohol support, really increasing services, and the supportive part is the key.
Okay, now you're always looking for volunteers, I imagine. So, what does a volunteer end up doing, at the facilities?
Yeah,
What are they involved with?
Yeah, volunteers are one of the most important things that we have. Our community is amazing, and we have 500 volunteer spots per month we fill in order to provide the services we do. Again, ECHO was founded by volunteers, and they continue to be an important piece. You can give an hour, or you can give even an overnight. We have overnight
Mhm.
people that stay and help. I always say, come just check us out, echoshelter.org. Our website has all the volunteer information. We have things like meal servers. You can come just serve a meal for an hour, and you will hear the most thank yous in an hour than you've ever heard. People are so grateful. We have opportunities for meal teams every evening in both locations, 365 days a year. Anybody can come for a meal. You don't have to be facing homelessness. You can be someone who that meal you're getting is helping you keep your housing, right? And so we have meal teams that come together. That can be monthly, it can be quarterly, it can be just one time to experience. So if people want information on these different opportunities, they can visit echoshelter.org, and we have all the information. They can call our main number, which is 805-462-3663. But volunteers are the magic. They really are an incredible part of what we do.
Is there any specialized training that they have to have, or
So we each volunteer opportunity, you have a short training depending on what it is. So meal serving, right? It's okay, the food safety, here's your safety gloves. This is what we want you to do. For our overnight volunteers, they get an orientation. So they come to the shelter about 5:30. Our team gives them an orientation that's about a half an hour. So they have the tools to know what to do in the overnight component. A lot of times that's just being part of, oh gosh, the kids are coming back from school, the parents are tired. Maybe you're sitting on the couch reading a book to one of the kids, or maybe you have a music background and you bring your guitar and you're just playing your guitar as you're kind of helping with monitoring. A lot of times people think of a shelter and they think of non-safe. The environment is very, very safe. that's our top priority. It's not necessarily that vision you might think in your mind. It really is this home-like environment. We really strive to provide empowerment and home and this feeling of, okay, we're just a home for in our Atascadero for 60 people. We're Paso, we're in our home for 50 people, and come and be part of that.
Okay. It dawns on me, we were talking earlier, again, before we came on, about the issue here in Atascadero about the homeless issue on Highway 41, where you have people up. What do you want people to know about that situation? Because it's cropping up all over the country, especially here in California. I mean, what what would you want to communicate to people about those people that are in those areas?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier there, so every year, each community has to do what's called a point in time count. And that's where volunteers go out and count on a day those that we observe to be homeless, right? So it's an observational, it's not ideal, right? We're going to get a count, but I don't think it's truly the count that exists because you're observing, right? Most of the time, you're not going deep in. Our last point in time count in San Luis Obispo, there was about 1,500 people that were observed to be unhoused. Well, between us and our other partners like 40 Prado and Five Cities Homeless Coalition and those that serve domestic violence, there's about 350 shelter beds. Well, if you look at that count of 1,500,
Yeah,
I say probably double that number, knowing how many people we serve.
sure.
Where are people supposed to go? So that moving them around, right? That changing from one location to the other location is it's solving a problem in one area, but moving it to another, and the solution is there's no place for those people to go. We offer 110 beds between our two locations, but we have wait lists. We're not able to meet all the needs. We've
Right.
tried really hard to grow, but really until we come up with more housing solutions, more places for people to go, what's the answer?
Okay. What is the future for Echo? What are you looking towards as far as the services that you provide to enhance that?
Yeah, so we always strive to try to help meet the need, but balancing with we want to have an organization that's run in a good way, right? So we don't want to stretch us too far. And the Paso Robles project, that was a big stretch, right? We were three
Right.
years ago, we were in a Tascadero over only in an overnight shelter, right, with 50 beds. And as we saw the need and the opportunity for that special project, we kind of did a leap of faith. We worked with the Atascadero uh, uh, city, and we were able to change our use permit in Atascadero, and now we offer 24-hour services, really giving a place for people to really get those services. We added 10 beds, so we went from an overnight shelter with 50 beds to now 24-hour operations and 60 beds, and then we took that leap of faith to open a
Mhm.
second location. The funding only came with 2 years in operational, so we were like, okay, it's an opportunity we can't pass up, but huge growth. So we went from a team of 6 to now a team of 22 operating 2 24-hour shelters with all those supportive services. So right now we are looking at our strategic plan. Yet we know we want to do more, right? We have a model that is proven, it's successful,
Right.
but the balance of stretching us too far. So potentially looking at some opportunities, but probably more in the next year or two as we kind of get our foundation solid before we can do that next growth.
Okay. I appreciate the time you took to come and speak with us today, because what you're doing is very important and very well worth the time. So if you want to, if you want to volunteer, be sure to go to the website of Echo, which is echoshelter.org. And then also, if you would like to call, then you can call the 805-462-3663.
6-3.
Okay, good.
Great memory.
My memory is as good as it should be, I guess. In any case, Wendy, thank you so much for being with us and providing the information that you did about the homeless problem. And please don't stereotype the people that you see homeless, because it may not look as it appears.
Yeah.
In any case, if you like this video, please share it with someone, especially someone who's teetering on the edge of homelessness or is experiencing a problem. They might want to hear what Wendy has to say about their organization. And then also, if you can hit the bell for future notifications, we would appreciate it. And this is Mark Sobowitz for a Clarion Voice.